Hello, hello. What's going on, people? Welcome back. Tuesday alive. It's been a few days. I haven't been live since Saturday. It feels like it's the longest time since I've been live last in quite a while. So welcome back. How you doing, guys? How you doing? Yes, we're gonna talk about the goalkeeper situation. I'm gonna tell you the truth about that beyond the somewhat clickbaity updates that have a little bit of truth in them, but not exactly in the way that it's being presented. We're going to talk a little bit more about Ruben Amorim and his position. No way is the mic cracking. No way. And a few more things. So, yes, I have a lot to discuss today, but it has been a few days since we last spoke, and we will be getting into all that. I hope everybody's been well. I hope everybody's been well. It's been a week, man. It's been a week. I'm a little. It is cracking. It is cracking. All right, hold on. In weeks, and then suddenly, let's unplug. And then randomly it decides to do it again, and I cannot quite figure out why. So I just replugged everything. Let's see if that's better. Last time that's all we really needed. That was the only thing that was messing it up. Samuel unblocked you after your job change. I don't actually know. It's good now. All right, we'll see. We'll see if it gets better or worse. It's got to be the USB stuff, and maybe I need to figure it out. Maybe I need to figure out a different way to plug it in that it doesn't rattle or anything. But yes, I really do want to talk about this keeper thing here in a minute, because there's truth and I need to take my glasses off. There's truth and there's lies. There's truth, lies, damn lies, and other things. And I wanted to talk a little bit about stats. It is XLR, okay? The mic is XLR, but it runs into this thing, and then it goes USB into the computer. And I think that's where I'm getting crackles. I think that's the issue. Look like Commissioner Gordon from the Batman Dark Knight. So I was shaving on Sunday. Saturday night, I think I was shaving because it started getting real scraggly. And I did everything but the mustache, as you do if you are a child, like every man is or should be. You start shaving everything, and you do it in parts, right? So you can see what you look like with different facial hairstyles. And my wife was there, and so I shaved everything but the mustache, and she goes, "Ew, it's gross, keep it." And I was like, in a second. Those two statements don't work together. And she goes, no, it's gross, but keep it.
How do you see us rebuilding the midfield?
So that's
Bruno
the story
and
of the
Case
mustache.
out. Hopefully Ugarte and Mount as well leaves us with just Cobby. Need a Kuna rotation too.
How do you see us rebuilding the midfield? Bruno and Cass out. Hopefully Ugarte and Mount as well leaves us with just Cobby. I think that Mount. They're probably. I don't know that Ugarte and Mount will leave. We'll see. But I do think that the idea is obviously two midfielders, very likely in the end, when all is said and done. 6 and an 8. 6 and an 8. Yes. Garnacho stinker and hooked. Stinker and hooked against Lincoln. My wife heard all the marriage analyses and wants a reason to leave me. Maybe. She likes it. She liked it. But, November's approaching, so we'll shave normally soon, and then we're going to bring it back in November once again. But also, I think Mount is a 10. Mount's playing more of a 10 in the forward line. Look, we want two midfielders. We want center backs. We want wingbacks. We may even want another forward in the future, but we'll get to that. I've got an agenda for today, but we are going to start with keepers. So I want to talk about this Lammens situation. Let me just tweet a wee bit of clickbait. Not really clickbait, to be honest. I'm trying to end the clickbait. And by the way, if you didn't watch the stats video from earlier, I sincerely recommend it. Okay, I sincerely recommend it. I'm going to talk about a couple of things here that are really funny to me, but it was really amusing, really interesting, because I got really bothered the other day when I was looking at this whole stat argument, and I was like, something's wrong with this. One, because stats can be, obviously used to present whatever somebody wants, good or bad. Trust me, I'm there on that. I understand. It can be very easy to point to the stats and just say we're really good on that basis. It can be really easy to do the reverse. But I keep doing these tactical videos, and I'm watching the games again, and I'm going, we are good though, offensively. We're actually like really good offensively. Like in some ways, almost scarily good offensively. Like I'm watching most of these games every week. I watch Arsenal versus City. They're never getting, City got one situation as good as the 6-7 we made against Chelsea, and they score from it. Arsenal got 0 situations that looked that good against City in that game, and they draw 1-1. We actually are kind of good, and I don't have the answer, as to exactly why we don't convert. But frankly, we are good, but we are bad defensively, and that's what I realized, and that's what I want to talk about. Welcome, Jason. Welcome back. I do want to talk about why we're so bad defensively. And it's I do want to talk about that as well, for sure, because we are bad defensively. But I'll tell you what really got to me, all right? And I had a little argument with somebody on Twitter. I don't know if anybody noticed that or saw that, right? But they made a whole post. They made a whole post about how the XG fallacy. And I actually at first responded with it in good faith, because I thought they're right, actually, right? Like if you try to do something and you get 1 XG, I'll explain this and we'll go back to what I was going to talk about in a minute here. If you accumulate 10% chances to go to 1 XG, if you have a 10-sided dice and you roll it 10 times, it doesn't actually mean you actually only have a 65% chance to get 1 expected goal. It's only 65%. So 1 XG does not equal 1 XG, right? In that sense. However, over the course of the season, that goes away. If you roll a 10-sided dice 100 times to try to get 10 number ones, it's no longer 65%. It's actually a lot higher. It keeps growing and growing and growing and growing and things like that. Listen, guys, I told you Liverpool were in for Baleba months ago. Don't forget that. I told you Liverpool was in for Baleba months ago. So there's no news to me. You guys watch. I told you Liverpool were going in for Baleba next season, and I told you they might have another departure to Madrid. So not a surprise. I told you this for a long time. It increases over time, but also this thing about low quality of chances, guys, it doesn't exist. It's an invention. Mathematically, there is no such thing as there's no advantage gained from a low number of higher quality chances versus a high number of low quality chances. Mathematically, over the course of the season, there is literally 0 difference in probability. I hope people realize that. Someone forgot their maths class. I don't know what country they've been educated in. My country is usually pretty bad on education. But high quality with lower numbers is not actually better probability-wise than low quality, high quantity, they're the same if the total is the same. At the end, the probabilities vary virtually by like literally 0.1%. And then you have to factor in that when you're talking about quality of chances in the Premier League, you're talking about chances that are like 11% versus on average 13%, okay? Chances that have 11% versus 13%. When you scale that over a season, there's
PLS,
no
can
difference.
We speak about United
None.
crisis of being 2 points of top 4 and only 2 points of best team in the world. Arsenal. Smiley face emoji.
I know, Iraqi. We're going to talk about that. The crisis that we're in.
Face with peeking eye emoji.
We're going to talk about that. The crisis that we're in. But the actual fact is, if you do the maths on probability, 11%, a ton of 11% chances versus a ton of 13% chances, if the total is the same, there's no difference. There's no difference. There's none. Mathematically, there's zero. The fallacy is in assuming that there's a difference in those probabilities. There isn't. And anybody saying so is actually just wrong. You're getting your math wrong. There's no difference. There's none. It's a meaningless stat. That XG per shot is the most useless stat on earth. And I actually, initially when I used to look at it, I thought it makes sense. A little more high quality chances, things like that. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit because math-wise, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. It's actually utterly useless for the purpose of anything. And that was the point, is that stats are useless. I'll give you a really simple example, okay? Because I like the dice example, all right? If you roll a 10-sided dice 10 times in the aims of hitting a 1, you have a 10% every time. Your odds are 65% that you're going to hit it in those 10 rolls. However, if you try to roll it, if you do it over, if you're trying to hit 1 10 times, if you try to hit 1 10 times and you roll it 100 times, your odds of hitting it at least 10 times are still about the same, 65%. If you have a 9-sided dice that you roll, because that makes your odds better, you understand? 9-sided dice. And you roll it, you know, I don't know the exact number here, but it's like instead of 10 times, it's like 9.1 times or something like that. It's like 9 times basically. If you have a 9-sided dice and you roll it 9 times, your odds are exactly the same. It's like 2% difference. There's no difference in probability. And when you get up to like 100 rolls, the difference is like 0.1%. There's no difference in probability because your total number is the same. Basically meaning if you have a slightly higher percentage chance but fewer shots, if you have a slightly lower percentage chance but slightly more shots, they're the same thing. The only time it would be different, the only time that high quality chances exist is when you're talking about big chances. Big chances. If a team is averaging like 0.3, like 30% versus 10%, you're going to see a big difference in probabilities. Still only like 10%, by the way, but not that big. But that's the point. So this thing about these low quality chances, it's fake. It's bullshit. It's fake. It's a negligible difference, correct. It's a meaningless difference. It's a useless difference. So this whole thing is like, as long as you're making some big chances, and United are, they're 4th in big chances or tied for 4th in big chances. As long as you're making big chances in scoring, as long as you make big chances, this XG per shot, bullshit. It's not real. You just don't want to be like super low, obviously. You don't want to be like way down there. But most teams vary by like 0.01%, 0.02%. It's meaningless crap. That's where the stats go crazy. And someone failed their probability class in believing that there was a difference between 0.11 and 0.12 in terms of where you would end up at the end of the day. So let me just tweet this real quick and then we'll actually talk about keepers, which is what I intended to start with here. So it looks to me on this, I just had to tweet it, okay? Wharton to Madrid is definitely a thought. It's been for a while. And Baleba, like I said, there's going to be a lot of competition for him. That's why we were intending to try to get a jump on it. But United do have felt anyway, that he'd be very interested in joining. We'll see where we're at come January, things like that, what actually happens. But I imagine there's going to be some serious competition for him, no doubt about that. But let's get into it. Let's talk about Lammens and the truth. Let's talk about Lammens and the truth, okay? Because the fact of the matter is, there's a lot being made of this whole keeper situation right now, and a lot of it is essentially clickbait, as per usual. I just have to say, like, the way that it's being presented, there's truth in these things. Remember, I always say this point about the news and things like that. There's truth in these things that happen. There's truth in these reports. They're not just making them up, but oftentimes the conclusions that are being reached by the information is wrong. For example, you take this keeper situation. All summer, it was like, well, we're not going to get a keeper. Well, we're not going to do this. Well, we're not actually buying a keeper. Well, we're not actually doing this, and we're not actually doing that. And more often than not, you kept hearing like, well, no, Onana's the number one. Onana's the number one because we're buying a backup keeper and Lammens and things like that. And that he's actually going to be the one starting. And they all got it wrong. Remember? That's the most important aspect of it. They all got it wrong. The fact is, United wanted to overhaul the entire keeper unit. If you haven't kind of caught up with the reality of where we've been at and what the intention was. Okay. So United have wanted to overhaul the entire keeper department because remember when we talked originally, they wanted competition for Onana because they had a senior keeper in Onana who was on a lot of money. They wanted to bring somebody in that they felt would actually push him, grow, and become the number one. And they didn't have that. They didn't have that at that time. Now, over the course of summer, what happens is that they got fed up with Onana, with the shit that he pulled this summer. So they bought in, that's where they started to look at Emi Martinez to say, hey, shit, we don't just need competition for Onana, we need a replacement for Onana. But it doesn't mean as the number one, or it doesn't mean as anything else. It doesn't mean shit. They want a young keeper and an experienced keeper, okay? Simple as that. They want a young keeper and an experienced keeper. They bought Lammens with the view that he was going to be good enough to be the number one and that this season he had a good chance at it, or they would have pushed ahead doing something else regardless. They wanted to get... Yes, they liked Emi Martinez, but they wanted him because they think he's good enough to be the number one. That's the truth of it. They think he can be that good. If they bring in another senior keeper, that doesn't mean they're bringing them in to start over him in the long term. That doesn't mean that at all. It just means they want to have two competent keepers because we haven't had two competent keepers since De Gea and Romero, and that helped us a lot. Romero used to kill it in cup games, won us the Europa League. Having a good experienced keeper is important. I mean, look at what City are doing. Obviously, Omar Wilcock's former club right now, having Trafford and Donnarumma. I think Alisson and Kelleher was a good group, even though Alisson played most of the games. But we used to have two good competent keepers. We haven't had it. If you want to go in with all guns blazing in different competitions and multiple competitions and things like that, you want a competent keeper. Would Emi Martinez have been ready right away? Yes, of course. Of course he would. But he didn't join. So This thing about, though, like the way that it's being read is because Lammens has joined and hasn't started right away, it's being pushed as if that means he's not the number one. And the fact that United are looking for more keepers, they are, is people are taking and coming to the conclusion that Lammens won't be the number one, and he's not the number one, and he's not going to become the number one. United don't have a number one. They don't have a number one. And there's a huge difference between Senna Lammens coming in, 1 full year of experience from Belgium into the Premier League on the final day of the window, and Emi Martinez or Donnarumma joining a club. Donnarumma's a Champions League winner, played in the Club World Cup all summer, done all sorts of shit. You know, did a whole bunch of shit. He's 28 years old, 27 years old. I don't remember how Donnarumma, I always think Donnarumma was really young, but he's not that young anymore. Is he 27, 26, 28? I don't know. And he's not that young anymore. He's experienced. These guys are 10 times, literally 10 times more experienced than Senna Lammens. He just needs a little bit of time to settle in. That's all. A little bit of time to settle in. There is no number one keeper. Amarim made this very, very clear that Bayindir was picked the first time, but then there's no number one keeper. So you can say, well, yeah, but Bayindir played again at Chelsea. Sure he did. Okay, so again, another person coming in, it's like it still hasn't been that long, actually. You're talking about what? Again, he's had, before last week, he had 10 days with the team. 10 days with the team. That's not a long time. And I need to remind you as well that one of the biggest factors in Bayindir playing right now is his distribution. Something that they actually do like in him is the distribution. And that distribution got us a red card against Chelsea, did it not? We can say, oh, Bayindir's so shit, Lammens should be starting right away even if he's not ready. And don't get me wrong, I think Lammens needs to get in there because I have serious concerns on Bayindir defending. But let's not pretend that Bayindir didn't make a brilliant pass on Saturday, that ball up to Šeško that ends up getting us that red card. Correct or not? That was his pass. That was his goal. That was not his goal kick, but it was his kick. His passing has genuinely been decent. At decent at minimum, good, potentially quite good at times. So he's not like exactly useless. We're finally seeing semi-competent build-up structures out of United this year. You'll notice that, well, a lot of people aren't talking about it because they don't want to now. But after a lot of talk last year about our build-up being horrible and all of that, it keeps kind of skating by that our build-up is actually like pretty good. It's actually quite good. In fact, we very rarely now are losing the ball early. Sometimes we get stuck in different phases, but we are definitely, moving forward in our buildup. They probably don't want to unsettle that until Lammens is ready. They don't need a lot from the keeper in the passing. They don't need a lot. They don't need much. I mean, Bayindir only had to make like 6 passes in that first half or something like that. Like, not a lot is needed. But he does understand the buildup. He does understand the basics. The passes aren't complicated, but that's kind of it. Even launching it long is a part of buildup. Sometimes you just have to do it, you know? Sometimes that's just what has to happen. You have to be able to do that. So all of those things are fine. And I'm not defending Bayindir. What I'm saying is that the new keeper coming in needs to understand it. But it's being made way too much of the idea that we're buying young players and they're not playing because, like, well, they're not experienced or they're not Amarim's picks. They're not playing because they're young and they need time to work into the team. Now we're seeing, of course, Šeško got a start. Šeško will start very likely again soon, if not in the next game. And those young players need time. Sometimes part of a rebuild is you buy young players from the future that aren't instantly ready day one to come in, and you work them in over the course of weeks and months. That is a rebuild. People think a rebuild is you just field young players. No, it's sometimes you're buying young players and suffering with maybe a slightly worse player, so you don't throw the young player under the bus and actually give them a chance to develop. How many times have we seen that? We talk about how much we talk so much. We've all sat here and talked and seen for years how our young prospects come to us and they fail. And the minute we protect them, it's a fucking travesty. We got to get off of this shit. If it takes a few weeks, if it takes a month for Lammens to get in, cool. Then it takes a few weeks and it takes a month to get Lammens in. Because if you throw him in right away and he makes mistakes because he's under too much pressure, then he's going to get killed. And everybody's going to kill him. You know exactly how it is for these young players. You know? We just have to be better at it. I mean, yeah, Fabinho I remember there's a lot. I remember there's a lot. But yes, obviously the factor is that because we're not winning a ton of games, people just want something to be the solution. And I agree. We need a keeper. My personal opinion is that Lammens should definitely start. That in the next game he should start, period. That's my personal opinion. However, I can at times separate my personal opinion from also looking at the alternative view on this, which is that it may be taking someone coming in from a different league, a different country, all of that, a little longer to settle in. And you know what? We beat Chelsea. So be it. We beat Chelsea. If we win again, I don't give a shit who's starting at keeper next weekend, as long as we win. Šeško's being criticized. He hasn't played much. Yeah, I get that, but he was going to get criticized whether he scored goals or not. He was going to get criticized whether he scored goals or not. And the fact of the matter is, like, the fact of the matter is that Šeško starting earlier wouldn't have necessarily guaranteed suddenly that he was going to get off the mark. Like, people like to pretend, well, if he'd started earlier, he's going to score. We don't know that. That's a pure assumption. We have no clue if Šeško had started earlier, if he would have scored more, or maybe he would have struggled even more. We have no idea. We can only trust with young players that they get their time as is needed when the coaches and such feel that they're ready and they're not being thrown in as the savior. I'm fine with that. I can understand that perspective even when I want those players to play personally, because we all want a savior. We all want to see one of these young players come in, go flying off the handle and suddenly become a star, but it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way. You know? I mean, Wirtz has come in and stunk it up for 5 games, but Liverpool are winning. They probably should have put him in slowly because he looks like he's drowning, and it's getting worse every single game. You know what I mean? It's getting worse every single game. So did they manage him properly? I don't think so. It's just they happen to be winning. And not even well. They're winning by the skin of their asshole. It's not really a saying, but it is here. You know? But let's see. Let's see what happens. I think it's way too early to pass judgment, but I can tell you for a fact, I can tell you for an absolute fact that this idea that he's already shit and he can't be the number 1 or something is wrong. They do want a veteran keeper. That's not the point. They want a veteran keeper anyway. They always did. And in the end, they will be rebuilding. They will be rebuilding the whole goalkeeper department. Remember, nobody got this right. Nobody got this right all summer. You know, nobody got this right all summer. They all had it wrong. They all constantly made wrong assumptions about what was going on, and all of that. So that's the truth of the whole keeper situation. Okay. Anything else is at the moment just bait. United want a keeper. Okay. They've wanted a keeper. They want another keeper. They'll end up rebuilding the whole keeper department when it's all said and done. All right. For sure. So now let's move on to the wingbacks, as we call them. We signed Lindegaard to be De Gea's backup. He played when we needed to take De Gea. Yeah, exactly. It's a good way to look at it. Bayindir's contract is 2 more years, so it'll be 1 year left next summer. So if we want to move, we move. In terms of veteran keepers, it's true we've looked at Maignan. There's probably an example of a name that we have contacted, but I promise you that Maignan is not viewed as some convincing long-term keeper for number 1 spot right now. It hasn't been that good. In terms of other names, I wouldn't be surprised if we went back in for someone like Enemy Martinez or something in later, but probably not because he signed a new deal. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's too soon to presume too much on that. Too soon to presume. So we'll see as we get closer. I don't think it's going to be some urgent thing now, but I'll find out over the course of the year if it's more important. But yes, on wingbacks, we know obviously the midfielders. I've got all my names on the midfielders. I've got them still on the board, on my little board. You know, the names we're looking at: the Balebas, the Yarmaluks, the Buadis, the Yeomans, the Whartons, the Edersons, the Andersons. You know, for different positions, players that we are all looking at, players that we are all considering for the midfield. We know midfield is going to be a priority in January. However, as I was saying the other day, I find this really interesting. Because, I was saying the other day when we had this whole debate about not debate, but just discussion about say these wingbacks. And it was like, well, so weird. Just got the randomest notification. Anyway, that if we didn't get, that you need Dorgu to be Ryan Giggs and all of that, right? And then you go and you look at that game against Chelsea, and you see what happens when Dorgu does produce. I'm not saying he was even great in that game, but he was better, and he had some really good crosses early that created some good chances, and he got an assist to Bruno, and he was really aggressive in his attacking, and he was doing a lot more, and you can see the ball was still falling to Dorgu, but we were getting... I don't know when we signed Lindegaard, to be quite honest. Doesn't matter to me. But we were getting chances out of it if he'd done really, really well. And Southampton winning against Liverpool... Wow. Okay. I don't want to say anything because I was already prematurely celebrating Lincoln City. Well, we'll still celebrate the Garnacho stinker and hooked against Lincoln, but no. But what I was saying there is that we do need that productivity from a Dorgu. But what if we do get somebody better also? And yes, they are looking at that. Okay. They are looking at that. Yeah, I know, Shatters. That's the thing. There's only one fullback in the league with more assists. I know he's got 1 now. Okay. Well, he could do more. Drawing. Okay. So, it's like, give him time. I think he's going to keep improving. But imagine when Dorgu does get better. Imagine when Dorgu does get good. Imagine when his quality of that final ball does improve. And it will. It will. He's smart, man. You watch Dorgu play. It's not happening by accident. And it's easy to say we can just get somebody better, right? But his intelligence of where he gets to is rare. It's not that easy to get into the positions that he's in. It requires a high amount of athleticism and a high amount of intelligence. He finds himself in the right position an awful lot. Back post, headers, things like that. There was an instance right in the beginning when De Ligt got a good cross into him and he was in front of goal and he couldn't quite sort his feet out to shoot, but he could score a lot. And I think as he improves, it's going to be really, really, really good because he has some really, really good tools. He's only 20 years old. Okay. But what if we did get somebody else? Take some of the pressure off, an attacker, things like that. I think he's got great potential. He should have been phased in. There you have it. That's my point on Lammens. That's my point on Šeško. Potential. They'll get phased in. You don't need all that pressure on him. But I think that it's important to keep this in mind. So United have been looking at Wingbacks. Certainly, it is something they will do in the market. Now, they'll slightly, I would suggest, hold off just a wee bit on the type of wingback until we have a type of wingback, fullback, etc. Until we have a little bit more certainty, maybe, on what we need and what's going to play. Now, I'm saying obviously pretty directly, Ruben Amorim. Like, is he going to work out? Because I think he will, and I think the plan is for him to work out. And I'll talk about his position in a minute. But obviously, end of the season, if Amorim's here and he's staying and we're getting a new contract for him, which we'd probably have to do if he stays at the end of the season, then we're likely to make a certain type of purchase versus if we had ended up with a back four manager or something like that in the future. We don't want to make too many specialized types of signings, so it'll be more likely, somebody flexible in that respect. But it could change. If we're in a back four, you're getting a fullback. If you're in a back three, we might sign a winger and convert them into wing back. So it's just something to keep in mind there. Now, as far as I know, the DeMarco link at this point in time is not true, in that there hasn't really been any talk of DeMarco. However, what I would suggest is that I do believe that United have been looking at wingbacks and keeping their options open in the area. And so, that is, it could be that it can be things like someone's heard that, someone's aware of inquiries that United are making, someone's aware of United, of people looking at, someone's aware of United checking in on different players, and then they're easy for them to draw a link, like through agents, things like that. They're hearing, hey, United have been inquiring about X, Y, and Z, and then the agents start putting their guys' names in media and things like that, and that's kind of what happens. It is a position United are keeping an eye on, and is certainly one that I think there's a little bit of wiggling out there of like, yeah, United are checking in on some of these players. So keep that in mind as a position that we're very likely to want to address. I think we'll go for more of a winger type personally, but I don't know for sure. Okay. In terms of the coach's position, because we have to obviously you got to bear in mind, like, all this nonsense, all this talk that's gone on, most of it not true. And then you take this whole thing about, then you've got this whole thing with all of that. And then United go and win against Chelsea. And now United are sitting, 7 points, 5 games played. And you're thinking, wait, suddenly this all looks kind of decent. This all actually starting to look pretty good. The numbers are good. The stats are, things are going the right direction. We've got 2 maybe easier games coming up. And then, United could be sitting on 13 points going into the international break, which would be not just good, but like very, very good from their measure of the targets of where we want to be in terms of progress. And if you think about the season that we're in and the insistence from ownership that, it's his first season, we're nowhere near a sacking. And the truth of the matter is as long as United are within striking distance of these European places, Amorim's going to stay. And as long as, and if that is the case, past probably the November break, then just lock it in for the season. Okay? He's staying for the rest of the season. And depending on where we finish, they will decide new contract extension, because remember, his contract was not that long. They won't want him going into the final year or at that point. So, yeah, if we go through the whole season, then he finishes in 8th to 10th or something, then they might look at a change at that point in time. Maybe at that time looking to someone like Areola to come in. But that is not really a discussion for the here and now, and they're not acting upon doing anything in the here and now. It's really likely he's going to be here the whole season. Like, really, really likely he's going to be here the whole season. Yes, the next couple of games I think are going to be pretty key. If we end up with a win and a draw and we end up on 11 points, they'll be pretty happy with it. Really, again, it's all about those points totals. As long as we're around the European places, then I think that's where we're going to end up in the end. Then there's going to be really no talk of him being sacked or anything like that. So they want to build with him for the future. They're not looking at it on this basis of like a game to game and, if we don't get a bunch of points, then suddenly he's in danger again. It's really not like that. So that's where we are. It's probably, I suspect that by this next international break, we'll be in a position where we're not talking about the manager anymore, and we just forget about it until the end of the season. Honestly, just forget about it, and see where we end up at the end of the season, and then we can talk about it again, because of that. They really, there's no reason they want to change. They haven't even really been considering it. Okay. So I wouldn't think about it much. I think we'll go into Brentford, get a result, and that will, in a way, almost put things to bed. I mean, obviously you can't lose to Sunderland at home, but it really won't be that big of a deal. But yeah, his position is pretty damn stable. I can tell you that. It's pretty stable at this point in time. I mean, look, you can't go on a huge losing run too early, but it's pretty stable. They do see it as his first season, as I've said many times, and all of that. So we don't, I think it would be nice personally, regardless. I think it would be nice if we could end up very soon stop talking about the manager. I really love to stop talking about the manager. I really don't enjoy constantly living in this land of like, are we going to sack the manager? Are we changing the manager? All that. I don't think anybody wants to live in that land, frankly. I mean, some people do, but I've told people a few weeks ago, settle in, man, because he's not going anywhere, and it's really unlikely he's going anywhere. And the Chelsea win has bought an enormous amount of goodwill, to stave the knives off. And I'm not talking about from ownership because they don't have the knives out, but you're going to have the home fans on your side when you're winning games at home back to back and you're beating Chelsea at home. You're going to have the fans on your side in that instance within the stadium. They're not going to turn on you. The next game we have at home is going to be Sunderland. So if you go in and beat Sunderland at home too, you end up with three wins on the bounce at home at Old Trafford. And going into an international break, the conversation is going to be dead by that point in time. The conversation is going to be dead by that point in time. So, yeah, but, one of the things that I do find really interesting is, a few years back, I don't know if anybody remembers this. And again, it's sort of pattern recognition and all that, but certainly United have knowledge of this, is that, and it is interesting seeing, the Ekatike got sent off for taking his shirt off for a second yellow. What a dork. But of course they won the goal. Of course they won the game late. They always are gonna. But whatever. We just knew that was gonna happen. But he got sent off. That is funny. But anyway, what I'm saying here is that, yeah, there's no excitement for managers either because there's not like a big one. But yeah, I think just settle in, guys. Just settle in on the manager. Just settle in on the manager. And I think even a fact of like that proves how settled he is the fact that he's not rushing in guys like Lammens and Šeško. Because if he was sitting there trying to save his job and under an intense amount of pressure and things like that, he would be feeling like he needs to instantly make picks and changes. I honestly felt like, I honestly feel as though the team he picked on Chelsea, which depressed me at the time, is a pretty strong indication that his position is secure, because he's just picking what he thinks for the game and not trying to like bow to pressures and demands and things like that. And I think it becomes pretty obvious that he's settled in for the long haul here. And I think he will. I mean, when I rewatched that Chelsea thing, I don't know if you guys watched the tactics video, but like, we just have to get better with our final ball. We have to get better with our final ball. It's actually mental to me how many chances we're creating. I said during that tactical review, like when I watched that, man, when I watched it back, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with like the doubts right now. It's the players. They have to sort out that final ball. It's the players. That's it. They just have to sort that out. I know we don't have the personnel to completely fix the midfield, and I know we're going to be overrun sometimes, and I know that we're going to have some weaknesses here or there, and I know that we have a young keeper. I'm done with the doubt. He should stay. It's the players. I'm 100% convinced. They just have to sort out that final ball. And it's the shooting, but even less than the shooting, it's the number of times they're in these situations that they don't even get a chance, that we don't even get a shot off. That doesn't even count for expected goals. It doesn't even count. We have a full new front line of players. They just need to get together. They just need to get together and work out their chemistry. It takes time for all these new players to work it out. This isn't look, if we were running out if you were running out the same front three and they still couldn't put things together, I'd be saying, guys, hold on a second. Something's wrong here. But this is new players. Mason Mount was played twice in the last fucking 3 years until this season. Cunha's never been here, and he's playing 10 and as strikers. And Mbumo's playing, and he's started. Ahmad's playing with different people. Bruno's playing in a different position. It's all new. The entire front 5, 6 even. The most experienced, you guys realize for 1 second, the most experienced, I'm going to say something crazy. The most experienced player at United in his position right now is Patrick Dorgu in that front 6. You understand that? He has played the most games in his position at United of any of them. Does anybody realize that? Patrick Dorgu has played the most games in his position of him, Ahmad, Mbumo, Cunha, Mount, or Bruno in their current position. Dorgu is the most experienced at United in that position. That's nuts. But it's that's the changes that we're making. That's the consequence of all of the changes that we've made. And it's going to take time for them to figure it out. They just don't have the speed of thought connection yet. That's all. That's it. They don't have the speed of thought. Liverpool are playing like shit, but winning. Why? Because they've had Mo fucking Salah there for the last 7-8 years now, and he'll just keep bailing them out. No, I'm talking about the front 6. Casemiro as a DM, but I'm talking about the attack. The attack. I'm talking about the attack. They've played 5, and we still haven't even gotten our first choice team out there. Šeško, we just haven't. We still haven't even once. No, Bruno is not at the 8. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying in their current positions, because Bruno played at the 10 at least most of the last year when he was there under Amorim. Right? Dorgu's played at left wing back more than Bruno's played 8 in this system, more than Šeško's played in this system, more than Cunha's played in the system, more than Mbumo's played in the system, more than Mount's played in the system, and more than Ahmad's played at wingback. Dorgu has played at left wingback more than all of them in those positions. That's the truth. So, that's when you really get down to it. You're going, damn, all right, maybe that's all that's wrong right now, because I'm watching them and I'm watching every game. How many times do you see City get into the positions we're in? Very few. And when they do, they score. Because it's Doku, Haaland, Foden. They've been there. They're experienced. They've played together a bunch. For years now, practically. Doku a little less, but for a while now. That's just the truth of it. So they need that experience together. But every review adds to me the point that it is just the players. And I genuinely cannot. I find it impossible to blame the coach when I watch these games back now tactically. It's like there's no way I can blame the coach when I see what's actually happening on the pitch. Defensively, we can talk about in a minute. But that's how I feel. I'm as much as maybe more bullish than ever on that front because there's just no way, man. And changing the coach isn't going to make them suddenly do it. You know what I mean? Changing the coach isn't going to make them suddenly, fix those chances. Yeah, I know our post-shot XG is very low and our expected goals on target or whatever is very low because our shooting is crap. But it's not even the XG for me. It's what the stats can't account for. How many times we're in good situations, but we fuck it up and we don't even get a shot off. Like we had chances that are as good or better than the chances that have been scored against us all year 7 times in that first Chelsea half, and we messed them all up. Nobody's making these kinds of situations like we are for fun. In case you were confused about what I was saying earlier on stats, I just wanted to show you. If you didn't watch the video earlier, apologies for the blinding lights that I just done on your face here. But there's a stat, okay? And the stat is called, let me go to a different tab because I think it's a little easier to see it. And again, I apologize for the blinding lights. The stat is this, and I actually, for a while, thought this was a useful stat. It's called non-penalty expected goals per shot, okay? This is the amount of expected goals you accumulate per shot that is taken, okay? And so for City, it says it's 0.17. Should we be working on attacking patterns? Well, maybe we are, right? But it's only been a few games. But listen, Bliff, like I was saying earlier, every time I see problems, I see them getting solved. I think within a couple of weeks, we will see that solved and we will pour the goals on. That's how I see it, because I'm sure they're seeing what we're seeing. But yeah, look, that'll be my judgment over more time if they can sort it out. Okay. And it's like, oh, the post shot, this expected goals per shot is this big fucking deal. It's this horrible thing. It's like, it's a crazy thing. It's this big deal. We're making low quality chances. But then you look and you go, wait, hold on a second. Well, we're actually above Tottenham, above Arsenal, above Bournemouth, above Liverpool, above Newcastle, above Forest. Ours is like this 0.11, and it's like, wow. So point being, this is about how much expected goals you get per time that you take a shot. Every time you take a shot, what's the expected goals on average? The thing is, there's genuinely like, Brentford were the best in the league at it last year, and the league winners were on 0.12. Okay, Liverpool won the league with 0.12 last year. That means that every time they took a shot, they had a 12% chance to score on average. Okay, ours is 0.11. The horror, right? We're at 0.11 versus 0.12. You know what the difference of that is over the course of the season? It's fucking 0, literally 0. The standard deviation on that is like 0.07. That means you're likely to score within 1 goal of each other, 0.11 and 0.12. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting the total expected goals. That's the only stat that matters on this. Your total expected goals is all that matters. That's it. The breakdown of these things is meaningless. It's meaningless. This is the most useless stat ever, except, I got to tell you, when it's down here. If you're like at like 0.05, 0.06, 0.07, it just means you suck at shooting. You're not suck at shooting, but you suck at shot choice because it should never be that bad. That's like really bad, okay? That's like a really, really low number. So the only thing you're really looking at here is that you don't want to be really bad at shooting. You don't want to be taking really bad shots on average, like 7% to score shots. But the difference between 11% and 12% is nothing. It's literally nothing over the course of the season. Even those 7 or 8% shots, okay? Even those 7 or 8% ones over the course of the season doesn't mean that much, but it's usually bad teams take bad shots. That's all that really means. But this is where stats go nutty, okay? This is where stats go nutty. The top on XG through 5 games won the league 4 out of 5 times. I know. Dumb shit decisions per touch. Exactly. Right. So it's like these are the pointless stats. They're stats that are fucking meaningless, and that is one of them. In fact, I will say again.
Why the heck are you fixated on XG? #itist.
I'm not. In fact, and what I'm saying is that even my eyes tell me our XG is a lie. That we actually should be doing way better. The eye test tells me we should be scoring a lot more goals. And I think I think anybody who doesn't think that is crazy. We should be scoring more goals, period. We just should. I mean, you can rattle off the chances, the big chances, but we do have big chances. That's the thing. We have 11 big chances. We've only scored 4 goals, 2 own goals. Isn't that crazy? 11 big chances. We've only scored 4 goals. That's the worst in the league at conversion of big chances, by the way. The worst in the league. So it's not just small. It's not just small chances. It's not just small chances. It's not just we're not creating enough good chances and all of that. We're creating big chances. We're creating good chances, and we're messing them up. I thought we were better defensively too, but where the stats do scare me is we do suck defensively. Oh, and there was one other thing. There's one other thing I wanted to address while I'm on my soapbox here. This idea that fast football is somehow bad and that you have to have final third domination and all of that. First of all, United have 0 counterattacking goals. You know who have the most? City, Liverpool, and Bournemouth. Okay? Who's on top of our table right now? This is totally different here. Who's on top of the table right now? Who's up in the table? Oh, look, Liverpool, Bournemouth. You know, City aren't doing that hot, but like those are the counterattacking sides are fine. Who won the league last year? Ready? Oops. Show you this. Counterattacks. Oh shit, it's Liverpool. Had the most counterattacks in the league. Well, that's crazy. What the hell? I thought that fast attacks were bad. You can't win playing fast football. Arsenal were 3rd. Like, give me a break. There's actually very little correlation between all of these things. And again, I'm just saying this is where stats go out of control because people use them to shove their preferred style and opinion down people's throats. Possession football wins titles. Fast football wins titles. The key is, do you make enough chances? I don't give a fuck how you make them. It doesn't matter how you make them, actually. That's the truth. And that's where things are being manipulated. And that's where you can decide for yourself. You may not like United's football. You might like it. It's going to be fast. It's going to be transition-based at times. It's going to be quick. It's going to be attacking with pace. It's not going to be settled making 600,000 passes and death by 1,000 cuts every single goal. It is going to be fast football. The only thing that matters is, are you making enough chances to win games? That's it. There is no right way to win football games, actually. And there's the meta, the pendulum, it swings back and forth over and over every year, back and forth, and goes different ways. Okay? City, it's been death by 1,000 cuts. Liverpool have played fast football. They've been the 2 best teams for the last 8 years, 9 years. And they play very differently as long as you get there. Arsenal have been the best possession side in the league the last few years. They haven't won anything. You know, it's just, you just have to be good. As long as you are getting chances and getting goals, you will win games. Goals is all that matters. Goals win games, period. And the team that scores the most goals usually wins. I mean, that's usually how it works. So watch the video earlier if you haven't, though, because I think you'll like it. But it got way up on my my soapbox about. I was just getting irritated with the whole process, with the whole thing, because it's just like there's a point where I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. Like, come on, man. This just gets stupid. But yes, I do want to talk about our defending. All right. Our defending, what's wrong with it? I was trying to spot that, you know, a little bit, and looking at the numbers, it started to make a lot of sense. So if you look at squad shooting here, you start to get a picture of what's wrong here, okay? In terms of number of shots, this is opponent stats. We're pretty good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We allow the 5th least shots in the league. Okay. We allow the 5th least shots in the league. That's really good when you compare it to not this year. This year we go back 2 years. When United we gave up 660 shots over the course of a season. Okay, 660 shots against over the course of that season. So that's what, 660 divided by 38, 17 shots per game we were giving up 2 years ago. Now we're giving up 46 in 5 games. Oops, wrong button. 46 in 5 games. So it's like 9. So we've cut the number of shots that we are conceding in half from 2 years ago. So if you want to ask, like, have things changed? They fucking changed, okay? Because we used to be this giant donut where teams would just shoot, and we'd end up deep. Yeah, 17 per game was one of the worst ever. Like, in the history of the Premier League, we were one of the worst ever that season. So, you know, we finished 8th. We were not an 8th place team. We were a 15th place team, and that showed up the next season. But now we're down to 5th. You know, 5th most shots, least shots conceded. But look at the numbers of expected goals, where we've conceded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14th most expected goals. So this is where there's a usage of this, which is that what's happening with us is that we're conceding very few shots, but big chances. Okay, big chances. And I was thinking about that and thinking, well, why is this happening? What is actually happening? Because, you know, I've been saying for a long time this season that I really don't see the problems the same as other people do. And I think that that's United don't get run through. It's not a lot. We actually do control games well. We keep teams away from our box really well. We're not actually getting run through the midfield where teams are constantly attacking us and just battering us with shots. It doesn't happen. We've played Chelsea, Arsenal, and City, and we're 5th on shots conceded. That's good. We are not allowing teams to run through us and get a lot of chances. What we're allowing are really, really big chances occasionally. I mean, 9 shots per game is quite low when you consider the general conversion rate of things, right? We're on average allowing too big of chances. I mean, 9 shots per game, we should be allowing, like, if you think about the average on those goals per shot type of thing, again, flip it around the other way, we should be allowing less than 1 goal per game, but we're not. We're not getting run through. Teams are not just walking through us defensively. It doesn't account for set pieces. No, set pieces hurt us, yes, but it's hard also to define what is a set piece. Let me give you an example, because I've been wondering about this too. Take the goal we concede to Burnley, the second goal to Burnley. It's a throw-in, right? Set piece, I think. That counts as... And then the first shot comes in. It's a low XG chance, and Bayindir saves it. Then he drops it. And then they score from a few yards out. Is that a set piece? I don't think so. I think by definition, that is not a set piece goal. If I'm not mistaken, by definition, that is not a set piece because there was already a shot from the set piece. Therefore, it can't be a set piece, and it's an open play chance conceded. I think, all right? I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much, but I'm fairly sure that doesn't count as a set piece goal. But let me just show you. Like, you'll be able to see it here, right? Like, look at this chart from Burnley, okay? We concede too many chances. Now, look, we should have still destroyed them, mind you. But look at the goals we concede. Look where we're conceding goals. Right in our fucking box. Like, right in front of the keeper. Look at the quality of these goals. 0.51 XG, right? And 0.38. These are really, really, really high XG chances. This one says it's a throw-in from a set piece. This one says it's not. Point being, we're making big mistakes and conceding. You get what I'm saying? We're making big mistakes when we concede. This was the cross that came in where somehow Shaw, De Ligt, and Dalot all completely lost the striker, and the other one was the throw-in that Bayindir dropped, right? So we concede on really big opportunities, but not a lot. I mean, look at how few chances these guys actually had. You know, like they had off target, 1 on target. They had 3 shots on target and 2 goals. You know, that's the problem when we're talking about big chances. If we go back to, what was it, Fulham? Let's look. Look at where the goal is scored. 0.67 expected goal. Like, again, it's a big chance.
Set pieces inflate those numbers.
They might, Humphrey, but I actually are look at the expected goal on target for this. It's 0.85, okay? That tells you that is a massive, gigantic goal scoring chance to Smith Rowe that we're conceding there. You know, and they had a couple big ones off of set pieces. See, corner, corner. So this one isn't, right? But look at all of these, corner, right? It's a bunch of those. It's a ton of those corner chances. So we're So to me, and let's go back to Arsenal. If we just run through the games, our defending isn't actually bad. It's, look at how few shots they get, and look where the shots are. Low chance, and then look, 0.91 in 1 shot off of a corner. So, like, no, our defending is actually good. But, yes, we're giving up a lot of high-quality chances off of set pieces. Goes to the argument, is it time either way to move to just put Lammens in there, right? We've got to, because it sucks. We're giving really big chances. And the only other thing that happens is we are occasionally letting, and I'm not trying to go in on Bruno again, but they are his men. The Smith Rowe one is a huge chance. He lets them right in. Against Burnley, it was a mistake by Bayindir and a mistake from I think it was Shaw or Dalot. Against City, it was Bruno. Against Fulham, it was Bruno. It's big mistakes that are going on there. And that's the question, is that can we fix that? Because we are conceding too big of chances. Yes, we could start scoring more goals and it will help, but we do need to somehow concede fewer big chances. We have to somehow. If we cut out, can we solve Bruno and the keeper and our set pieces? Probably not, because Bruno's going to start there, and we don't seem to have the team to fix the midfield yet for those situations. But we can fix the set pieces. We need to get the keeper on. And there's one more thing which I'm ashamed to say, my friends. I'm ashamed to say it. Do you know what it is? I'm going to say it anyway. We don't concede those goals in the box at that level. If I'm correct. We don't concede those goals in the box when Casemiro plays. And the reason is, and this is why I think he continues to pick the Casemiro-Bruno partnership. When it's somebody else next to Bruno, like Ugarte, for example, runs around, he's not a sitter. He runs around, makes tackles, does all of this stuff. When Casemiro plays, when the ball's coming towards our own box, he'll stand like in that top of the box section and is big and good with his head and good in the air and all that. And he sits. He can't run around. He doesn't really get back in transition particularly well. He's got a lot of weaknesses there. He does dumb things sometimes, but he does sit in front of that back three when we're being attacked and cover that top of the box spot where these goals, these big chances that are not set pieces are coming from. So technically, if I were to be a little bit ambitious, if I was going to give Amram a bit of credit on this, if we fix the keeper and we play Casemiro and Bruno, in theory, we cut out where we're conceding big chances because of the way that they play. In theory, with Lammens on and Casemiro, we should stop conceding where we're making big losses. And on the other end, our attacking has been so good, even with Bruno and Casemiro playing, we're making enough chances to win games. So in theory, Casemiro and Lammens with Bruno gives us the best chance to win games right now. Bruno not tracking runners, I know. But when Bruno doesn't and Casemiro is there, Casemiro's still in the spot to make up for that. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, this is where it gets awkward, because, like, take that City goal for Foden, right? You know where Casemiro would not be? And I'm not saying he's even correct in this. He would not have been chasing Doku like Ugarte did and blocking him, which unluckily bounced back to him and crossed into the box. He would have been sitting at the top of the box where Foden is, and it would have been Bruno roaming around a bit more. So, in theory, that goal doesn't happen, in theory, if Casemiro's not playing, because he would have been there to pick up Foden. Now, it doesn't mean Ugarte did the wrong thing, because he didn't. It's still a consequence of Bruno, but because you're asking them, they're different profiles of players, you understand? They do different things, right? Shaw stood still too on that for sure. Casemiro is more of a sitter, and it may be Ruben Amorim's assessment that when we play Bruno, just have a sitter because they're going to pick up for Bruno's mistakes. When you have Ugarte, he's not making up for Bruno's mistakes because he's actively defending. Do you see what I'm saying? They're like two different jobs, and I'm thinking, yeah, we need a 6. We need a 6. So I'm looking at it and saying, I kind of get it. When I started looking at the defending, I was like, maybe that's why, because I don't think he's stupid. I think he's doing well as a coach. And then I'm like, who picks up Doku, the keeper? No, that's the thing, Simon. So here's an interesting conundrum you have in football. It wasn't really Ugarte's job. He was trying to make up for someone else not doing their job. Now, in general, you want your destroyer to do that. You know what I mean? In general, you want your destroyer to do that. But there's also an argument to be made at times that the most important thing you can do is just do your job. If that goal if Doku bursts by Shaw there, you need, like, maybe De Ligt runs over if Ugarte doesn't, and maybe he's not as close to Doku, but gets at least between Doku and the goal, but then Foden is still covered by the 6. You know what I mean? Ugarte Miro would be more 100%, nerd. That's the thing. That's why it worked last year, right? That's why it worked last year, because then you're getting the sitter and the destroyer, and you can do both. It's actually the best complementary profile, but he's going to keep playing Bruno. So I kind of understand it. I kind of get it. I'm not convinced yet. I want to see how it does. I'm not convinced that it's fair to let Bruno off of the hook by continuously playing somebody without legs, because it denigrates certain other things that we can do. But I kind of get it. When I look at our defending, that's what's wrong with it. Big chances conceded in the box and set pieces. And usually that's happening, the big chances in the box, when Casemiro isn't there, because we don't have a sitter when Casemiro's not there. We don't have somebody sitting there. And so when Bruno doesn't track a runner or something like that happens, nobody's picking him up. So I kind of get it. I'm not sure that it's a solution, though. I'm not sure that it's a solution because Casemiro makes too many mistakes, too. Can you get Cobby to sit like Casemiro? Maybe, because he's a competent defender. He just doesn't have crazy legs. Can you just get him to sit? Can you get Ugarte to sit? I don't think so. Because, I mean, you'd be losing a lot of the strengths of Ugarte if you have him sit. We'll see Bruno Ugarte again against Brentford, most likely. You know? Do you have to ask Ugarte to, like, just be the sitter? Because he's actually decent in the air and does some other things well, but, you know, do you let Bruno run crazy? What if you flip it and you try to make Bruno the sitter? Don't go out there. Like, what if Bruno, instead of coming out to defend Foden and losing track or being the first man in the press, I got a solution for you. Okay, let's take a look. I've got an alternative solution for you if you're gonna do this. All right, this is kind of how I see it. I've got an alternative solution because when we did the press, we had Bruno out here pressing and then he got bypassed with Foden. What if you flip it around? Whoop. What if you let Ugarte press instead of Bruno? Because he's better at it anyway. Just flip it around. Make Bruno the sitter. So then when we were getting attacked, why not? No. Don't just say no. Think about it for a second. Think about it for a second. Just think about it for a second. Why not let him sit? Why not just have him sitting? What if he was just sitting instead of coming out to try to pick up Foden and try to track him? What if he just was sitting in the box? Doesn't have the discipline to sit in. Look, I'm trying to problem solve here because he doesn't have the discipline to play over here either. He doesn't have the discipline to play up here. He's even worse as a presser. I'm proposing a potential solution to this problem. It's not about being holding. Like, what I'm saying is that because it's a two-man midfield, the job is almost the same. Like, just bear something in mind here, right? The weakness, obviously, of the two-man midfield is that both midfielders have to have defensive instincts and have to track runs. They have to. But if you're not going to do it anyway, maybe when you're getting attacked, you just sit at the top of the box. If he's going to play. That's all. I'm trying to be solution oriented. He has a problem. That's why he's playing Casemiro, though, Cooper, DB. That's what I realized. That's what I realized about this. That's what I was realizing when I looked at the chances we concede and why he reacts the way that he does. Right? He does see Bruno as a problem. That's why he plays him with Casemiro. Because Ugarte is a much better proactive defender than Casemiro. He is. 100% he is. And I'm positive Ruben sees that the same way. But if he knows that Bruno is going to lose his man, he'd rather have someone who's always sitting than someone who's also tackling. Do you get me? I don't believe he doesn't see it as a problem. I believe he sees it as Casemiro hides some of Bruno's weaknesses. And it's worth the offensive positive that Bruno brings in his eyes. You get what I'm saying? And it's why Wharton could work, because he could be a sitter. But still. Yeah. So I'm saying look, when you're playing with one hand tied behind your back, or let's say you're taking players and you say, well, they all have strengths and they all have weaknesses. Well, then your job is cover up their weaknesses. That's the job. There's no midfielder we can put who isn't a problem. right? There's no midfielder you can put who doesn't present some sort of problem. Ugarte, not that good with the ball. And he's not a sitter, but he's a very good. You kind of would want to pair Ugarte with Casemiro, frankly, right? Because you get a bit of passing range and things. You only have one midfielder with legs, and that's Ugarte. You can't pair him with Bruno because you don't have too often because the defensive discipline, there's nobody protecting the back line. Like, there's going to be problems no matter what partnership you pick. This was what I realized. We just have to accept this. We're going to have problems no matter what partnership we pick. There isn't a perfect one. Kabi and Ugarte is probably the closest we can get, but not yet, seemingly. But not yet. For now, Casemiro covers up the Bruno problem the best. And I think he feels we need Bruno's passing range. The solution is new players, mind you, but we're not there yet. That will be solved. But for now, I think this is what we can do. So that's how I see it, all right? That's how I feel. I don't know. That's how I feel. Like, I think we're all hoping there's a better midfield pairing. And I'm not saying there isn't. Don't get me wrong. Because I think you could still do better with a different plan. I'm just saying I think I understand why he's doing it. Because I don't think he's stupid. The numbers, my rewatches, they tell me we're actually pretty good. So if he's not stupid, and you don't start with that assumption, then you work backwards and say, well, why is he doing it then? And I think that's the answer. I think that's the answer. At least for me it is. But we do need to improve this defending. We need better box defending, and we need that. But we're going to have to change this keeper out. I think we're going to learn a lot on Brentford, you know? I think we're going to learn a lot from Brentford game. I think Brentford is to me like, you go in there and you win against a team like that. It's a decent team, a tough team, but one we should beat. Is there any keeper problems? Is there any other issues? Like, what happens in that game? I think we're going to learn a lot. I hope Kabi has the patience to work and turn. Me too. Because I think he's going to take over from Bruno in the long term. And I think you'll end up with like a Baleva Kabi midfield in the future. And I think it'll be brilliant. I think it could be absolutely brilliant. The partner DB will almost certainly be Ugarte. It'll almost certainly be Ugarte, Bruno in the midfield. It will be forced into that. If it works really well, then maybe we find a solution. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that will give us a solution, a new solution that we didn't have, a new solution that we didn't know before. You know, that can be put out there, that can win games. And maybe they'll be changing the instruction. You know what I mean? I think he's a little concerned to try it too much. We did it against City. We lost 3-0. It wasn't Ugarte's fault, but we did lose 3-0. However, there were things you could take even positive from that game. And Brentford are not City. So it may be horses for courses. It may be matchup based. It may be things like that too. But I'm very interested to see what happens when we play Brentford, given that we don't have Casemiro, and can we make it work? Because we've only saw it against City so far, Bruno and Ugarte. And we saw it against Chelsea, and they were good. They were fine. Certainly, I didn't see any problem with Ugarte Bruno against Chelsea. We held them off really, really well. Really, really well, frankly, for most of that time. We saw Kabi and Bruno at the end of the Burnley game, the last 20 minutes, and I thought it was okay. Yeah, I thought it was fine, actually. Kabi was picking, but it was a different game state. Burnley were fully sat in by then. Kabi was picking it deep, carrying it up the pitch, and all of that. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy. So, in general, again, Lammens, no drama there. Lammens will be the number one. Very likely. He's just settling in. There's no hate against him. The idea, the reason they bought him was that he could come in and become the number one during the course of the season. Just needs some time to settle in. It's not that worrisome. They've wanted to overhaul the keeper thing. So this idea of they want to spend on a keeper again is not a commentary on Lammens. It's they want 2 new keepers anyway. The coach's position is pretty secure right now. And there's a real chance very soon we're not talking about it for the rest of the season. Real chance. Wingbacks, we are interested. We are keeping tabs on them, but I don't believe there's anything yet in the DeMarco story. But it is viewed as very vital to the system and very vital to things working. But they still have a lot of belief in Patrick Dorgu. They still really like him and feel he's going to keep coming along. I do too. We've had the whole stats debate. There's some real bullshit out there about it. Form your own opinions. That's fine. That's my recommendation. And watch the video earlier. If you want definitions of what some of these stats means and how you use them to look at things, then you can form your own decisions. What I did realize is our defending is bad. But specifically, what about it is bad? Set pieces and losing runners in the box. We're not actually conceding a load of chances. Teams are not running through us, but we are conceding some big chances in the box from set pieces and from just losing a runner. And I think I understand why Casemiro and Bruno are playing, but that is an area yet to be solved. So in theory, my feeling after 5 weeks now of analysis is that we are on the cusp, my friends. We are on the cusp of a breakthrough in goal scoring. I think the goals will start pouring in. It could be this weekend. We could see Cunha, Šeško, and Mbumo for the first time. We need those relationships to grow, and we could see the goals explode. On the other end, fixing the keeper hopefully happens soon. Regardless, I hope it happens soon. And getting the right balance and that midfield combination to work to prevent those goals in the box that should absolutely not be happening. And United will be a juggernaut. And we might hit our turning point here. In 2020, Arsenal were 15th in Arteta's first season by Christmas. And they finished the season 8th, and I think they were the 3rd or 4th or 2nd best team in the league in the second half of that year because it finally clicked and they finally figured it out and they finally got it together and found that balance. We can't be in 15th by Christmas. We're not Arsenal. We're not allowed to be in that position, especially not after what's happened. But I think the turnaround is coming sooner, and I believe it. I believe this is the start of a 3-game winning streak into this international break, and then things will settle down and improve. Okay? That's what I've got for today, my friends. That's what I've got for today. I appreciate you all hanging out with me on this Tuesday. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I've got to figure out something to talk about. But either way, I'll be back one way or another tomorrow. I appreciate you all very much for spending your evening with me, spending your time with me, for listening. Please watch the videos I've made over the last few days, the tactical view of Chelsea, the stats video. I'd appreciate if you watch them. Even yesterday's podcast with Phil may not always be your cup of tea, but it was a very positive, it was a very fun one. I really liked it. Okay, but thank you all for being here. I appreciate you all. Enjoy your evening. Please like the video on the way out. There's only 130 likes. We've had a lot more people than that in here. Like the video on the way out. I forget to ask all the time. And I will catch you all later, okay? Thank you very much. See you later. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your week. Smash the like button. Subscribe. Turn your notifications on. Catch you guys in the next one. Good night. Bow, 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 bow.